for the delay. We had a couple things going on in the background, real life stuff, but we're good. We're good. All right. So welcome to Salt Mines episode 4. We are with our guest tonight, who is Oracle.
What's up, guys?
We have Junebug back.
Hey,
Frozen is here tonight,
What's up, guys?
and we have NZA returning from last week.
what's up?
All right. I want to give a huge shout out to all of you guys. If you've never heard of the Salt Mines before, you've done a amazing job coming through. Just I can't even explain the amount of hype we've gotten today alone.
Oh yeah, it's been huge.
My Twitch has gotten over like 150 new followers. Our bandwidth has pretty much all been eaten up on our podcast host. YouTube is still counting up our viewers to make sure you guys aren't bots. And I think Junebug is about to hit 500 upvotes on Reddit for posting a simple, hey, come through.
Lord and Savior Junebug.
Thank you, Junebug. Thank you, Junebug.
Thanks to that
Um,
Xanadu Ife. Let's go.
So, thank you again to you guys. Just unbelievable support, especially you guys taking a chance on us, maybe if you've never seen us before. So I really appreciate that. But without further ado, we have a bunch of heavy topics to get into tonight, and a bunch of good topics too. Starting off with Apex 2015, and Oracle was there personally, and he's gonna give us a little bit of his accounts.
I think actually, well, Frozen wasn't there. Were you there?
I was not.
I wasn't there. No.
Oh, okay.
I
So,
was.
God, me and Junebug were the only ones there.
Yeah. We got some good matches in there. We got to
Betrayed
play
us.
some Project M.
You didn't money match me. You ducked me, dude.
Dude, I was
looking
money
for
match
on
you.
Saturday.
Wow.
Whatever. Okay. So, anyways, Apex happened, disaster. But it's pretty amazing that our community banded together just enough to save this, train wreck of a tournament. Big shout outs to Twitch. They put down a bunch of money for buying a super last minute venue at the convention center. But, I really just don't like Apex. It's been consistently poorly organized. This year was a disaster, but there's always something wrong. Last year we got kicked out because the fire marshals, the fire marshal came and the venue was just too small. This year we definitely would have gotten kicked out if they hadn't moved venues. Like, even if the snow thing hadn't happened, the venue was just way too small. The max occupancy was 400 people for a 2,000-man tournament. It was like, what are you guys doing? It's just ridiculous. But organizational problems aside, it was amazing to see. It was great because we had like all the heavy hitter TOs in the Smash community, like Nintendo and Juggle Guy and Crimson Blur. And I know there's more, but those are just the three that come to mind. They were just kind of like, we're gonna save this train wreck, and they banded together and they really saved the tournament. It was great. That's my thoughts on Apex. Very poorly organized, but ended up being a lot of fun. I made a lot of money in money matches. That was my favorite part. I made like $50 in just Project M money matches.
Wow.
Can you tell us about the atmosphere of what it was like in respect to being a Project M player at Apex? And I from what I understand, I have a friend from Smashing Grounds named Ovis who helped, or Furious George, who helped a little bit set up some kind of a friendly bracket. I saw that there were some pictures uploaded of like 3 or 4 setups.
I wasn't there for that. I was mad because I heard about that afterwards. But yeah, I think there was like a side tournament or something. I was going to organize a side tournament because we had, if we had stayed in the same hotel Friday when they announced that it was canceled, I was going to host a side tournament. But with the venue being moved 40 minutes away, we had like half the people in the new hotel and half in the old hotel, so it just wasn't going to work.
So were the setups that were set up, were those in the old hotel?
No, they were for the tournament. There's a friendly area, right? To bring your own console,
Sure.
and there were at the most there was like 4 setups at one point, just all PM. And there was at least one setup going for the entirety of Saturday and Sunday. It was pretty good. That's where I play all my money matches. A good number of people were over there playing friendlies. It was really cool.
Any notable matches worth talking about?
Um,
I heard you
None that
beat
I
my boy
really saw.
Sora.
Oh yeah, no, that was a great match. It was super close, game 5. In my defense, I hadn't played for like 6 hours beforehand, and my hands were cold. But in his defense, he had clearly been drinking, and I hadn't.
Yeah, he said he was drunk.
Um, yeah, I also my favorite part was when Alpha Dash was trash talking, and he was like, "Money match, Rob Dittos," and I was like, "Whatever, I'm the best Rob." And then I four stocked him game 1, and I was just like,
Oh
"What's?"
no.
Heard
It
there
was
were a lot
awesome.
of 4 stocks all around.
Yeah. No, I mean there was a lot of cool stuff that happened in the matches. Nothing really got recorded, but it
Didn't
was.
Strong Bad record a few things? Like,
I think he recorded a little bit of our friendlies. We had a
yeah.
hotel room set up, and I'm pretty sure your money match with him on Saturday night or whatever was recorded.
Oh yeah.
Who won that?
Drunk Bad versus Drunk Bug. I clutched it out.
Oh,
Nice.
drunk bug, let's go.
Were there any notable, like, one thing that we've tried to put focus on in this podcast is sort of highlighting some of the players from some of the regions that got talked about less and things like that, or certain players they don't get the recognition they deserve. And I'm curious, Oracle, were there any players that sort of impressed you that we should keep our eyes on that we don't, like obviously we already have our eyes on you. Um,
I mean, Sora really impressed me because y'all's scene in Boston. Y'all are in Boston, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the Boston scene doesn't get talked about much outside of Boo because he's a legend. But
He plays DK. Like,
yeah, he's
He's
the
a hero. Yeah.
except for me. I was hoping he was there so I could money match him. I beat him in DK Dittos at Escatar, but he's gotten a lot better since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Sora really impressed me. I did say I four-stocked Alpha Dash, but he was still good. He wasn't bad at all. It was cool to see, somebody from like an entirely different country repping Rob like that. The other guy who really impressed me was J Brock Pony because I think aside from Sora, he was like the only person to take a game off of me in Money Match.
Who-
It was, yeah,
what
he was-
region and character?
he's from Midwest and he was playing Sonic.
Oh.
He was.
yeah,
he
I
was-
actually played him in pools at the big house.
Yeah,
It's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah, he's pretty good.
What was his name once again?
J
J
Brock.
Brock Pony.
I
Brock
couldn't
Pony?
tell.
Okay.
I think he was mad at me because I've seen him at a couple tournaments before, and every time I see him, I comment that he has the worst, probably the worst smash tag in history. Letter J, the first gym leader, and then Pony.
One of the major things that happened with Apex is there was a lot of things surrounded about the silence of Gimr and the silence of D1 about the topic about PM not being there. Was there anything that you saw firsthand that, in terms of PM, maybe speaking to some TOs around there, where you had the sense of, oh shit, you know what? Maybe it's a good thing they're not bringing it up, or maybe it should be brought up. Like, what did you encounter there while you were there?
I mean, the tournament was really just not focused on PM. There's not a lot of talk about PM. Nothing much was happening. I didn't get to talk to the organizers, but yeah, I mean, the focus was just on the other events. So people at the event weren't really talking about PM, except for the PM players.
Yeah.
I mean, because we got that out of the way early. We've known for months that there's not going to be PM. That really sucks. The radio silence, I assume, has to do with the Nintendo sponsorship, because the same thing happened when they invited people to the Invitational.
Yeah.
Those guys weren't allowed to talk about PM,
Or
and they
stream
weren't.
it.
I don't think Nintendo told them not to play it on stream, but it was like,
No, they were
Kinda
explicitly told.
understood.
They were explicitly told.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it was something like that because from what I've come to tell, from what I can tell, is like Nintendo's relationship with PM is that they don't want to acknowledge it, and they just don't want to. They really don't want to have lots of high-profile people talking about it constantly. So they
Yeah.
just, when they have contracted people like D1 or Gimr running the event, they say, hey, just don't do this while you're contracted with us.
Yeah, and I think it's worth stressing, I forget if it was Prague or D1, but one of them had asked Nintendo, about PM right after E3 and had gone to the subreddit to talk about it. And they had mentioned that Nintendo is aware. And I feel like it was Prague, might have been D1, had mentioned that Nintendo was not ultimately against it. I'm not like making that up. I remember reading that.
Right, that was
Well, and then on top of the things that we heard earlier today too, like when I put names out there that we heard, like even Nintendo is kind of divided about it. So like there are facets of Nintendo that are down for PM, and like if you talk to people that follow, I guess Nintendo of America, it doesn't seem like they're as kind of down on it as Nintendo of Japan is, which kind of puts it in this really split thing because it's obviously the same company, it's just a different division, and you need, if you're running a company that's worth as much as Nintendo, you kind of need everyone to be on board. You can't take a risk like that by dividing your player base, your fan base. So it's a very interesting case. That who had the posted the Sky Williams Reddit post?
Yo, can I go through the whole shit show that happened in the last 48 hours?
Yeah, dude,
on
go
Reddit?
for it. No, that's
Go right
because
ahead.
you need to, because if people just read the Sky Williams Reddit post, it is a little confusing because you're like, where did this come from? But NZA also brought up that there's like these circumstances that kind of built up and led into it. So take
Yeah.
the floor, man.
So first thing I want to say before we really jump into it is that basically, uh, a lot of what was talked about, what has been running around in conversations for the past 24 hours has been stuff that we've sort of semi-addressed in our last week's episode. And we're not really going to hit on the points because, we don't want to bore anybody with repetition. But I would say like what we talk about today is really just a part 2 of that conversation. And I recommend everybody sort of load that video up of last week's episode and just basically pause that video and watch it after you get done with this one if you haven't already seen it, because it's got a lot of relevant material. And I'll go ahead and post last week's episode in chat just so people have it, or I'll do that in a second. But anyways, so let's get down to what happened and where the buildup happened. So a day ago, there was a thread on the Smash Bros. Subreddit called Community Decision Time, Deciding the Fate of Project M. And it very respectfully laid out essentially, hey, it's been 24 hours since Apex. We as a community have a decision to make. Here are the pros and cons. And we need to start having a conversation. Do we drop PM support in exchange for Nintendo sponsorship? Because what it looks like right now is we can't have both of them. We have to have one or the other. Nintendo sponsorship or should we drop PM? And we as a community have to have this discussion so we can evaluate and move together on this rather than be sort of shouldered into making a decision. And I think that's it's a very sensible topic. I'm really glad it was created, and it's something we have to be aware of because frankly Nintendo's not talking to us as a community. They're talking to all of the leaders of our community, and our leaders are representing us. And if we as a community fail to have this conversation, then those community leaders will make those decisions for us, thinking that they're doing the best that they can to represent us without actually hearing our side of the story. So I appreciated that thread. Now, what happened afterwards, I can't really say I totally endorse, but 2 hours later, another thread came up that was titled, "A call for the community leaders such as Gimr and D1 to break the radio silence on Project M. Are you really committed to a unified scene that you envision, or is a Nintendo sponsorship enough justification to throw a sizable portion of the community under the bus?" And this was very angry in tone. And this is kind of what caused the shit show, because what resulted from it was what looked like the beginnings of a witch hunt, which included mass Twitter bombing Gimr and D1. And one of the positive outcomes of it is that Gimr basically posted afterwards and said, "Hey guys, I understand your concerns and I've been busy and I want to address what you guys have all been talking about, and I'll get to it in the next couple of days." So we got a official confirmation that we'll get some response from VGBC's Gimr. On the other hand, D1 hasn't said anything, and I think as a separate topic from talking about all this stuff is whether this was an appropriate thread in the way it was construed and the fallout of it, and we can have that discussion. And then finally, the third thing that occurred was some people in tweeting Gimr and D1 somehow tweeted Sky, and Sky essentially said, well, he put up an inflammatory tweet that I think that was misinterpreted to be him bashing PM. But what he was really trying to do is sort of encapsulate how what he had heard behind doors at Apex of how people felt about PM and what the general stance was from some of the official figureheads or like individuals who are running the tournament scene. And so that's kind of like the build up. And I think it would be nice to start out talking about the D1 Gimr call out and then to kind of delve into some of the specifics about what Sky said.
Some people in chat right now are actually saying that D1 has come out and said something not too long ago.
Oh no! Gotta get to Twitter.
So yeah, right. So people are asking for the link, so we're waiting. Waiting for them. There you go.
Breaking news.
So
I kind of want to talk about something Sky said in his post. He said Brawl was okay. Like the message conveyed by PM to Nintendo, or what he believed the message was Brawl was okay, but we made it better, more exciting, and competitive, something that you failed to do with your iteration.
Right.
That last part is something I don't agree with. The idea that modding a game is some sort of disrespect to the creator of the game is, I feel, a very outdated idea, and it's only disrespectful to companies like Nintendo. Other companies, they encourage mods. They love mods.
They see it as a potential market.
the thing is this. The
Yes.
thing is this, and I agree with you 100% that it's outdated. But Nintendo is very archaic in the way it treats things, and that's
Right.
I mean, they're still making the same franchises they made 20 plus years ago because that's just the way they know how to do things, and that's fine because we love those games and we're in love with those franchises. And to defend a little bit of what Sky Williams said, he did mention that he felt that PM isn't a disrespect toward Nintendo. It's saying, look, we love your game so much that we're going to put thousands and thousands of hours into it to make it, realize its potential and all this other stuff. And he worded it in a very nice way, where we're just huge fans and we just want to keep the game alive.
Mm-hmm.
But he said, and I agree with this, is that Nintendo sees it that way. Nintendo definitely
Right.
sees it as, oh, this game is modded. You're taking an artist's point of view and you're painting over it, and that's where there's this just disconnect between what I think the dev team and the people that are behind PM and the community leaders and people in the grassroots level feel about the game, and what the actual company that made Brawl feels about the game.
I know we've got a lot to say about Nintendo, but I'd really like to start with just analyzing the community response, like to this post Apex time period, and whether it was appropriate or not. Because, we're going to segue into a lot of stuff about Nintendo specifically and modding and what's okay and not okay. And I just want to take a hard stance and say, okay, I think on one level, calling out Gimr is okay because Gimr represents a brand, he represents a company, and he sort of did make revenue off of individuals who backed him with the understanding that he was going to support the PM community, right? Like there's kind of a contractual understanding of what's okay and what's not okay, and and the fact that he got funded on the promise of something that he's no longer probably going to deliver. We'll wait till his official statement, but that's my sense, right?
Yeah.
But what was done to D1 is completely uncalled for.
Mm-hmm.
D1 is a community leader, fine, but he never, when he agrees to commentate some PM or when he agrees to help out at PM tournaments, he never is tacitly agreeing to suicide his opportunities to have a good relationship with Nintendo or refuse to do what Nintendo wants him to do. This is one thing that I think is kind of frustrating looking at the community from the outside, is that these people have worked way harder than most of the people who are complaining to make Smash successful. They've been working so freaking hard for this dream. And the idea that people on the outside can stand in judgment of them and basically say, hey, you're screwing our community over because you're not willing to support PM, when they've never made any kind of they've never profited off of PM necessarily. They've never been promised revenue in the future for supporting PM. They have no allegiance. They have no reason to have allegiance. Like they need to be able to make their own decisions about this stuff. And I think part of this whole situation is we need to respect people's agency to make their own decisions, whether it's VGBC or D1 or anybody, because they've been working so freaking hard without making money on this stuff. And if the promise for them to make money is around the corner, I don't see them as like selling out if they choose to focus on that. It's not like they're bad mouthing PM in doing so. The only difference between the Gimr and D1 situation is Gimr actually made money off of the PM community with the promise of like providing PM content essentially. And I think that was wrong. I don't know what anyone else has to say about that, but
Yeah, I feel like Gimmer, if he does not deliver PM content in the future, he will lose a substantial amount of subs. I mean, like you said, the Free Gimmer movement was mainly focused on PM. But I would hope that he's weighed the pros and cons of this. At the end of the day, he is a business, and VG Bootcamp is his livelihood.
Yeah.
and if Nintendo is posturing Splatoon at Smash events, maybe Splatoon is a competitive game they want to jump into. And if that's something they want to do, if they want to start treating more of their franchises like that, and they need a partner to produce video content, that might be Gimmer. So like, hats off to Gimmer if he ends up turning this into like a beautiful relationship with Nintendo where he gets to like, you know, do what he's always wanted to do and work arm in arm with Nintendo and live the fucking dream, like, and do it with all kinds of video games. So I don't know, like I don't feel mad at him.
I don't feel like Gimmer is obligated to do something that might not benefit him and his family, and like that's what he set out to do when he started VG Bootcamp.
Yeah.
Like anytime you hear him speak about it, that's his dream. He wanted to be able to go around, travel around the country, travel around the world, and provide people with a great streaming experience. And by every single account, he has done that. It's no different from a streamer trying to get partnered, someone that's trying to be a commentator, trying to get to a bigger tournament. Like you might have to leave grassroots a little bit to expose yourself. It's like when people say, "Oh man, my favorite band sold out." Well, your favorite band wouldn't be around if they didn't sell out. Like you know, they have to put food on the table, and I don't see any fault in it for him doing that.
Yeah.
And you're 100%. You don't come out and attack D1, who's like, that dude's been around since day one, and he's done everything possible to help the community and to push things forward and to make sure that we have a Melee scene and a Project M scene and a Smash 4 scene, like,
Yeah.
and even Sky came out and said, he goes, look, I enjoy commentating PM. I have nothing against PM. He goes, the only time I ever really talked bad about it was because my community, like his direct community, kind of sucked and like talked shit to him a lot. But with the absence of that, he enjoyed it and did his thing and never really said that the game had no promise. He went out and said, listen, it has everything Melee has. He said the only thing he didn't like about it was watching Fox and Snake play. He liked the speed, he liked the pace, he liked the hype behind it.
I think we can all get behind that.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? Like the dude came out there and said, I love the pace, I love the speed, I love the mind games, I love everything involved. The game is amazing, the game has what you need, and people are getting on him for bringing out the information. And then people are getting on D1 because he didn't answer fast enough. The dude doesn't have to answer to anyone. He can wait till he pleases. And then one of the posts that people are saying that he did respond is him just basically saying, look, we were given a specific time to come out and give you guys information, but flooding my inbox and spamming me and sending me toxic messages is not going to hurry up that process.
Yeah.
And that's 100%. Like, of all people in the world, I think that's the last person we need to be treating that way.
Yeah, witch hunts actually help nobody. So stop doing them, please.
I mean, bottom line, we really should never. You shouldn't shame somebody for trying to make money. That's just how the world works. They're not obligated to support a game if it's not in their best interest. You know, if they don't want to support it, or they can't talk about it, it's not their responsibility to do that. Can't get mad at them for that. Shouldn't be sending toxic messages or harassing them about some information. We know that we're going to get information on it soon, which is better than what it's been like in the past with the total silence and nobody talking about anything, just in a general state of confusion. So we can just be thankful for that. I think we should just, wait on some official news, and until then, just kind of leave these guys alone.
And for the misguided people who did do the call out, like my question would be, to what end? Like, what was the end goal of that? Like, let's say magically D1 and Gimmer come forward and they both say what everyone kind of thinks they're gonna say, which is, sorry guys, we can't support PM anymore. Let's say that's what happens. Okay, next day happens and we know that knowledge. We kind of already knew that knowledge. So what came of it? Like,
We gained
I
nothing.
understand in Gimmer's case, that means people can finally unsubscribe and feel like, if they did end up contributing because they're expecting PM content, they know for a fact it's happening. But like, I guess what worries me about that is like that doesn't solve the problem. It just kind of looks symptomatic of a community that's begging for this kind of glory day that's not gonna like magically come back. Like no one's gonna reshake up the snow globe and like have that pretty picture happen again. We're in a new chapter. It's a new age. We have to do new things. We can't just shake our scenario into becoming the old reality that we've left behind. And I think this is where I would like again urge people to watch last week's episode because we really I think lay out some groundwork of what we need to do as a community to be successful. And that information, like that discussion, is more important now than it ever has been.
Guys, it's kind of like every once in a while when you're feeling like really angry toward the game and you're really feeling angry toward the situation at hand, you do have to take a step back and remember it's a game. There's no reason to go out there and threaten people and witch hunt people, put people on the spot. I'm 1,000% sure that if D1 even mentioned, because I'm sure the shit he's dealt with in his past, the fact that he even had to mention that he was getting toxic messages, I'm sure there was racial slurs, I'm sure there was threats, I'm sure there was a bunch of just hateful things being spewed out. Guys, it's a game. Like at the end of the day, we have other things that we have to prioritize, and I think if we actually take the step back and we treat it as that, and then we can slowly start, okay, all right, we got to do this first, do this next, and then build off of that. You think more rationally that way. You're not making these crazy in the moment like this has got to happen. You're so frustrated and angry. You're not thinking straight. When you take the step back, you rationalize what the thought process is, and you're not lashing out at people like D1 and Gimmer. Like I mentioned before, neither one of them are to blame. There's really no one to blame about the situation that we're currently in. We can go back and forth, and earlier we were having a discussion about certain TOs at Apex, and it's like, oh god, it's their well, not necessarily. There's a huge thing, there's a cloud hanging over us that isn't quite, it's unspecified. There's certain things that are going on in this community, but we can't just point a finger and say it's exactly that. It's a combination of things that we just need to work on little by little.
So to talk about what you just mentioned, that there's no one to blame. So that's kind of what Sky said in his post. And I think that Sky's post basically was like, he kind of just laid out the foundation for the discussion we're already having right now about like where the scene is at. And he just kind of reiterated a lot of what we've already said. But I noticed that one thing he said was, quote, D1 and Gimmer aren't the bad guys here. They're just misconstrued passions and misplaced hatred. And there was one comment by Kazcom, a really cool NES main. And this was really highly upvoted, and it really spoke to me, and I think it's a good jumping off point for more conversation. And he basically challenges your assertion that there are no bad guys. He says, this isn't true. The bad guys are the people who stand in the way between the community and the games they love. The bad guys are the people who gag the growth of any iteration of Smash, whether officially released or modded. Someone is twisting the knife into the heart of the PM scene right now. You can't look at that and say, this is all just a misunderstanding. Someone is wrongdoing us. Whether this comes from a misunderstanding is another question, but the knife is still in our back regardless, and someone put it there. And right now, it's looking like that person doing that is Nintendo. So if Nintendo's twisting the knife, they are the bad guy. And if they're the bad guy, everyone in the community needs to let them know we won't stand for it. And then he kind of goes on about like what would happen if there was a C&D and stuff like that. But it's worth talking about that, I guess, about whether sort of bring it back full circle. What does a Nintendo sponsorship mean? Is Nintendo the bad guy? And kind of weighing what it means in this community to make that ultimate grave decision between PM and a sponsorship.
Okay.
Go ahead, Oracle. Take it.
So first, just the first thing that I want to say is that there's no use pointing fingers right now. We don't know who the bad guy is. It seems like it might be Nintendo. We have no hard evidence. We have reasons to believe, but there's no real evidence. Nobody's talked about it. We haven't seen official word from Nintendo. And as long as that's the case, there's no point in trying to say, okay, Nintendo's the bad guy. We have to stop supporting them. We got to start sending messages. There's no point in doing that. We
Definitely
know yet.
don't send the messages. Don't
Yeah,
send the messages.
let's everybody put down your pitchforks. Just be patient. Once we have, we may need to do that if Nintendo turns out to not be supporting it and trying to kill it or something like that. But for now, we don't know that. We just really need to be patient. Patience is really what everyone needs right now. We just need to sit tight, wait for the official announcement, and then go from there.
What are the options in your head about like why this is happening to the PM scene?
Well, I mean, it's clearly happening because either somebody doesn't want PM or there's a fear that Nintendo won't want PM and people are preemptively giving stuff up to.
So those are basically the two options. That either Nintendo is contractually requiring it, or people are overreacting. People like Alex Strife maybe overreacted and pulled PM everywhere as a preemptive measure.
Like it's totally possible that Alex Strife pulled PM. He's obviously not a big fan of the game. It's totally possible he pulled PM preemptively to just sort of because in his opinion that would be the best business decision to get a good working relationship with Nintendo.
Well, I mean, do any of you guys think that we need a good functioning working relationship with Nintendo though? I mean, when Melee was growing grassroots, I mean, I never saw Nintendo anywhere, and they did. Look at Evo, 2013.
So it depends on what you mean by need, and it also depends on what we get out of a Nintendo sponsorship. So people, we obviously don't need Nintendo support. We don't need anybody's support. The community will run on its own with no outside interaction from any company. That's just how it works. It's how it's worked with Melee and Brawl and 64 and PM and Smash 4 forever. That's how it is. It's grassroots. The official company doesn't support us playing the game, but that's okay. We have, talented people who run tournaments and support the games themselves because we love it. We don't need Nintendo at the end of the day. But Nintendo has a lot of money and a lot of power. And what they stand to offer us does seem like it could be pretty great. Like imagine a world where Smash tournaments are like league tournaments, where Nintendo is putting a significant portion of their money, just like the creators of League do, into running these events, running these circuits. I mean, imagine Apex not being for like $10,000. Imagine the winner of Apex getting, $100,000 or $500,000. Like we could what if it paid out the top 16 or something? What if it was mainstream enough that, everyone in this chat was good enough to play and just make money off of Twitch? That's the way it is in League.
As long as we Fox.
Yeah. But I mean, so Nintendo stands to offer us a lot. In my just personal opinion, what they've shown to offer us from the sponsorship at Apex has been just very disappointing, because from what the community got out of that was more setups, which is something that the TO could have provided with, on their own.
Adapters.
Splatoon, which admittedly was very cool to get a game, a demo of a game. Like, I don't really care about video games. I don't play anything. I don't play many games besides Smash. But it is really cool.
And have it positioned as a competitive title. I think that's a key core part of it, right? Like that Splatoon was basically, by being able to be there, it could be positioned also as a competitive title.
Well, sort of. I mean, it's just really cool in general that, we get a demo of a game to play like before it's out and before it's widely released. That's like for the Smash community. It's like, hey, we think you guys are gonna like Splatoon. We're gonna set it up so you guys can take a shot at it. You guys all give it a shot.
I think this does have a point though. Like they marketed it to a competitive community, so the chances of Splatoon being competitive in the future, they're
sort of.
there.
I guess so. Maybe I don't know. I don't see much point in speculating on it.
Sure, that's fine. That's
here.
fine. I mean,
But
it is
It
speculation.
is totally a PR move. It's just getting more word. We saw a ton of ads they played ads for Smash 3DS. Like, come on, that's really the other thing that we got out of the tournament from Nintendo was a bunch of advertising.
Forced marketing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's whatever.
I mean, how do you view all this, Frozen? Like on the developer side, like just like every single day having random people like I'm sure you've gotten people just tell you why are you even bothering.
Yeah, and one thing that really makes me wonder about the whole Nintendo fiasco, and it was, as Oracle said, they didn't offer us too much. Like, we had the ads, and we had the setups, and we had the Splatoon demo. But one big question mark that's been hovering over my head recently is this Nintendo sponsorship going to last? Like, Smash is the new super hype thing that's out right now, and Nintendo's obviously taking advantage of that. It's no, like, hidden thing there that they're trying to do that. But the question is, will it last? Like, they could move on to another game eventually. Like, it could be like this new Zelda game that they're going to advertise.
But it could be
eventually.
Splatoon. Like, the relationship between Nintendo and competitive communities might continue, even if it's not with Smash specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to consider.
I am interested that Nintendo is willing to work with us now, since in the past Nintendo blocked streaming of Brawl at MLG. They tried to block streaming of Melee at Evo, and they wanted nothing to do with us. And now they
I'm just
now with the
change of heart.
yeah.
Nintendo's like a very old uncle or grandparent, and what I mean by that is just the fact that like they're very stubborn, and you try to throw common sense at them, and you're like, come on, man, listen, like this is awesome. We're doing a great thing here. Trust us, trust us, trust us. And then like it gets to that point where like the evidence is just like so piled high. They're like, all right, you can do your thing, and they watch and I'm sure there are people in every division of Nintendo that watched Apex and got some enjoyment out of it and said, wow, you know what, this is actually a really cool thing that they're doing, because the crowd was really into it. Like, you couldn't go a single set without hearing the crowd chanting something or being really involved and very hyped at everything. But bring back to that point, though, it's just like, how long are they gonna really keep that sponsorship around? And that's conspiracy stuff. That's hearsay kind of stuff. Like, we don't know if they're here for the next 10 years, the next 1 year, the next month. We don't know that stuff. But as of right now, they're here. It's something that we do have to kind of like, I don't say deal with either, because you can. Until something happens where Nintendo officially says something about PM, we can literally just kind of ignore it, and it doesn't need to be a part of our lives. Like,
see, that is the most important idea. That's what I want to reiterate to all the viewers, to all the Project M players. Until there is official word from Nintendo, there's no reason not to stop playing. That's the way that we're going to do it. I mean, when it got announced not at Apex, and we talked in the Apex sort of back rooms with all the TOs doing the qualifiers, where they told us we can't have it on stream. I talked to Boet, the other guy, Boet and Sean, about Tourney Locator, and like, I love Project M. I want it on our stream. What do we do if it gets canceled? Because it's terrifying. That's the whole reason I want to stream and run Tourney Locator and do these events. Why I host Low Tier City and Aftershock and all these tournaments is because I love PM. But Billy just had as always, had the cool, calm response of if there's no word from Nintendo, then
there's nothing to worry about. It's a manufactured fear. And first of all, shout outs to all 410 people watching right now. Pretty sweet.
God, that's a lot.
Yeah.
You guys are coming out strong tonight.
But I guess here's what people are worried, right? So you guys are talking about the potential thing we gain or lose from a Nintendo sponsorship. The one thing people aren't talking about is what Sky referred to as the quote-unquote proverbial gun to the head of leaders, of community leaders. And that gun was not necessarily specified, but it was mostly illustrated as an example of Nintendo shutting down all Smash related streams, right? In case PM, if basically the idea being if we don't accept the olive branch that Nintendo presents, that there is a possibility that all Nintendo streams, all Smash related streams are at jeopardy. And it is worth noting, and I really want to make this clear. Sky did not say this with any information on hand. He was expressing a worst case scenario of something he had not heard from anyone specifically, just something he conceived of in his head as being a potential risk of us hurting our relationship with Nintendo.
Really quick before you go any further, I call balls on that. Just
Yeah, I agree.
and I know, like
Yeah,
you
no,
said, that's
they'd
an
be-
absolute like worst case scenario. But if I live to see that day, I can't wait for the repercussions Nintendo hits,
The
because
backlash would be crazy.
because sometimes a
Yeah.
company like Nintendo, like I said, old person, we love them to death, part of the family, but sometimes they they probably need a rude awakening like that. And I think they got that 2 years ago. I don't think they want to do that again. But continue.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
no,
no, I don't-
yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Nintendo as a company is not. I mean, they're doing a lot better, but like 6 months ago, they were in a bad spot. You know,
Yeah.
just released a Wii U, not selling because there's 0 games, and just not doing well at all as a company. So I think that could be part of why they want to sort of join with the Smash community, is to get more people supporting Nintendo as alternative revenue sources, but or just like, get the word out about Nintendo and just do better as a company. Um,
I'm in total agreement with you guys. I mean, let's talk about some numbers, right? In an install base of 9 million people on the Wii U, Project M 3.02 was downloaded nearly 1 million times. That means more than 10% of Nintendo's current population base, install base for the Wii U, was downloading and playing Project M at some point. So it's not a small game to cease and desist. Like,
Yeah, like
those are
that's
all
it.
potential audience members that would buy a Wii U in the future because they're all Nintendo fans. But like, let's talk about the potential worst case scenario of shutting down all of Smash Brothers. I remember reading a Reddit post earlier today where someone said the Smash community always over exaggerates their clout and their weight and their power. Like, we're all just a bunch of fucking kids playing a video game about baby things. Like, he didn't say that, but that was the kind of the implication, is that we don't have power. Like, and my response to that is like, what was trending on Twitter on Friday when no games of Smash were being played? Apex 2014 was trending, and on Saturday, and on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, after the victory by the Patriots. Here are the following words that were trending, and I know this because I took a screen cap. Hashtag worst day in 4 words. Hashtag Patriots win. Hashtag Super Bowl. Hashtag deadline day. Malcolm Butler. Falco. PPMD. Bevel. Chris Carter. Armada.
Yeah,
Those
enough.
were international, worldwide trending words at like 4 a.m. on Monday morning.
Yeah, every once in a while you just gotta flex your dick a little bit, and that's what Smash did. Like, it's legitimately what Apex was. Apex did everything it was supposed to do, and it honestly, it was just a smart move by Nintendo, because I think even they saw the hype building, because it was like before they even got announced as an official sponsor, we were already near cap regardless. Nintendo probably finished up the deal they were doing with Apex, jumped on that wagon. And responding to that person's comment about Smash always acting like everything's worse than it really is, and always this and the other thing. Number one, and I'm not really a huge part of the Melee community. Like, I was here and there at Web2 Zone back in the day, but Melee earned everything they got for the most part. Everything, because there are hardworking people in that community, the same way as hardworking people in this community, and you're right. You know what? Sometimes we do over-exaggerate the clout. You know why? Because no other game puts up with this shit. There's no, like, you don't see people going, oh man, that new Tekken game, gotta take that shit off the shelf right now. Can't do it. No one deals with the stuff that the Smash community has dealt with. Like, people come to my channel and they ask me, like, why do you, like, oh, you play Smash? I'm like, yeah, I enjoy Smash. I love Smash. And they ask me if I'm part of the community. I always have like this weird way of, like, I don't know if I'm part of the community. Like, I try, I love the game, I try to go to tournaments, all this other stuff. And the one thing I've always said is, if I go forward playing another game, I will never get rid of this podcast, and I'll never get rid of the interviews, because the PM community and the Smash community is so unique that it's like, I feel, even just because I was a part of it for like a second, I owe it to it immediate, because I've met so many cool people, I've seen so many cool things. Like, I will never watch a stream until probably next year that was as hype and as fun to watch as Apex was. And I have no, even Smash 4 was fun to watch somehow. All right, it was fun. Like, I was
Let's
watching.
not throw too much of the hate
No,
around, though.
no, it was hilarious. The crowd made it
The
watchable.
hoo-has.
Yes.
We started that, by the way. My corner and the crowd. We started that hoo-ha chant.
The
during
crowd-
beauty
the
game.
Yo,
crowd
did you
made
guys
it
catch it?
watchable.
Did you guys catch it when I think it was Armada up through up aired Mewtwo up through up aired like Hungry Box and
The
people yelled
hoo-ha.
hoo-ha
Yeah,
in Melee?
Yeah.
it was great.
But
It's spreading so fast.
you know, and people just, and honestly, when people post things like that, I feel like they just don't have the proper knowledge of the history of the game. And also, like I said, it's not that we're over exaggerating the clout, just no other game really deals with this kind of bullshit. If Project M was a piece of Valve software, or was around in the 90s when modding was cool, it would have been picked up by a development team. Nintendo would have bought it out, whatever you want to say. Frozen would have made money to test out a game that's not out yet. People like Guru and stuff like that would have been doing good for themselves. Everyone else was part of the dev team. D1 when he was part of the dev, like, everyone would be good because they would have been bought out by someone else, and they would have been able to release this game at like $20 a pop, downloadable through your Wii or Wii U, and that's it. Like, everyone would have been very happy.
People keep saying I'm really idealistic for thinking this might actually still happen.
I think
But-
it could, because it's 2015. Shit doesn't work the way it used to.
It's that, and it's also a user base of 9 million people playing a Wii U is so small that Nintendo is more pressured than they ever have been to do things they've never done. Case in point, last year they tried to shut down Melee at Evo, and this year they've endorsed Melee everywhere and have tried to basically run the scene a bit. So I think that people really underestimate the infinite possibilities that lie, beyond the horizon that they can't conceive of. Like, there is a possible future in a couple of years or in a year where, after the Smash 4 hype cycle is done, that Nintendo takes a serious look at PM in a more positive light than we've ever talked about. Who knows? But I think it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I don't know, it might not happen. It sounds kind of far-fetched, but I mean that's a real possibility.
So is what happened this year with Nintendo's involvement in the Smash community more generally is completely far-fetched. The idea of a GameCube adapter for Wii U, the interfaces with only one game, and that's Smash 4. For who is that created? It's just for us.
It's obviously for Splatoon.
Obviously Splatoon. So that shit was pretty far-fetched too. So I don't know. Like, I don't know what the fuck this company does. Is like Brian Otano on IGN will say, like, Nintendo is the crazy toy maker. Like, you never know what they're thinking.
I thought you said Brian Botano. I was like, what?
He's it's not important.
That-
But
no.
yo, June, did you look at all at WCS stuff? Because I know you wanted to talk about that, and I may have.
Oh yeah. This StarCraft stuff. No, you should probably talk more about that.
I can't really bring up too much about it, but essentially, what's happening to the Smash community, the closest parallel I can find is I've been a big follower of the StarCraft 2 scene for the last 4 or 5 years, and essentially, I want to say in 2012 or 2013, Blizzard basically took a direct interest in the esports scene, and they decided to take it over. And the initial response to that was like pretty negative all around, but also kind of tepidly positive. It's kind of similar to what's going on now, except there was no PM in the equation. The main thing about it was that Nintendo basically like took over the scene and did things like excuse me.
Blizzard. Yeah.
Blizzard took over the scene and essentially did things like said, hey, so now we have like a global league, and there's going to be a European league, an American league, and a Korean league. And during like these times in the daytime, no one else can broadcast. No one else can compete with our streams. And that was where the negative fallout started happening because like other tournaments wanted to start up, or other tournaments that had been grassroots couldn't function and couldn't stream because of the fact that like Blizzard held the IP, but both had the networks and the connections of all the other partners that could pressure these guys, and they also had like the intellectual property rights that they could flex with Twitch. And I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting parallel.
That's kind of the overkill of what we're trying to get happen because, you know, if you look at major games like I mean, League of Legends has a very similar thing. When you finally pass Diamond, there's a Challenger rank, and if you hit Challenger, you're invited to certain things, and you get to go on there. And they kind of they have their own ranking system, which is, you know, how they pick out their teams. Global Offensive, same thing. Counter-Strike, you know, they pick out their teams. They're not. You don't just happen to walk in there and say, hey, we're signing up. You know, like you got to get invited and whatnot. Do I think Blizzard went a little too far by saying no one else is allowed to stream? This is God's Day. Yeah, probably a little bit.
Yeah, but
only
here's
because
the thing, right?
they should have felt confident enough that they're gonna get the thousands and hundreds of thousands of viewers without having to worry about, you know, one Korean dude that gets like, you know, 10K or whatever it may be.
And they didn't get that. My point is that they didn't actually interject that much money into the scene that wasn't already there, right? Like basically, people have this all set up, so it's a hypothetical where either Nintendo puts in a shit ton of money and it's a great experience, and it's all good, and they're just contributing, or we like don't shake their hand on it, and you know, we get to keep PM and we get to keep grassroots. But the middle ground is that we do shake hands with Nintendo, and it ends up really, really being sucky. And I think that's a possibility that people rarely talk about. The idea that partnering with Nintendo could be bad for the scene, even PM withstanding, like that their influence on every tournament, Melee tournament, could be a bad thing.
Yeah, you don't like just because it might. Oh, great, they partnered, so PM gets to stick around. Or even if you take us out of the equation whatsoever, they might basically handcuff all the things that make the Melee scene kind of great to us, and they're gonna just basically say what's gonna get done and how it's gonna get done. You know, what if Nintendo finally gets into the Smash scene and says, you know what, these tournaments have been running a little too late, and starts messing with times and stocks and things like that. And you're like, but we've been doing this for over a decade now. How are you going to change up the pace of the game? And those little things that we kind of like take for granted is a possibility too. It's not always the grass is greener on the other side. So
that reminds me of a thought experiment I did with a lot of my friends who were excited for Smash 4. Sort of the brawl players who didn't really like PM, like Denti or Aerolink, who were trying to who were basically waiting for the next Smash to get to try hard. And so I was like, okay, you guys, here's your situation. Nintendo's gonna open up a worldwide league, and there's like millions of dollars in prizes, and it's amazing, and it's super easy to compete. It's just like League, and you know, there's much more money to be had. But the catch is that it's free for all with items and timed. It's like, would you take that deal? Just like think about that. That's just like a crazy, just like a horrible ultimatum to force somebody into, you know.
They're all
but that could be like a real situation.
What's what's that crazy question they ask? It's like your wife, your sister, and your daughter. You shoot one, marry one, and have sex with the other. That's what you got.
God.
That's what you got put into right there. It's like no
Y'all
matter
play
what.
some weird ass games.
That's not a game. It's a question. It's a question they ask. We're tough over here, right, bro? New York's a little we're jagged over here.
Yo, don't bring your mother or your daughter around me. You know who I'll shoot. You don't know who I'll marry.
God.
Oh God. But no, you're completely right, because if they start messing with the way we do things, someone in chat just said, what about all Final Destination? Just for like the rest of our lives, everything will be like the stereotypical Omega mode, Fox v Fox, no items. Like, you know, it's not what people want to watch. Like, one of the most fun things about watching Apex was Amza. Like, I never rooted for a Yoshi in my life that hard. Like, it was amazing to watch. It was a lot of fun. And you know, it's just a very odd situation, I guess, altogether, to kind of wrapped up in this, and we're just trying to play a video game. I think this is just the gist of it. Going over like what we went over earlier, like to recap, just please don't hold people accountable, especially when you have no idea what's going on. If you're reading a couple Reddit posts here and there, that does not mean you're like 1,000% informed of the situation. There's a bunch of things we talked about off stream today, a bunch that we haven't brought up, because we got to make sure that the sources are proper. And if you're just the type of person that you read the first thing, it's like immediate, oh my god, this is fact, it's not going to help anybody. So people like Gimr, people like D1, just lay off, get off their back. They don't deserve that kind of negative attention. They've done nothing but try to help and support the group. Even PM, like PM at Xanadu. Honestly, the way I look at it sometimes is that Gimr probably knew what was coming and did it as a favor, like as a hey, we love you guys. One more is PM at Xanadu, and we broke like 6,000 viewers. Like I don't think he ever had any negative thought in his mind about the scene or anything like that. He was handcuffed like anyone else if that's the situation at hand. And D1, the face of the community basically, like him and Prague are up there, and Sky Williams is someone that's really like done. I don't think he's done much wrong. I love the way he presented himself at Apex. I think he's a genuine person. He felt bad about what was going on, which is the only reason he came out and said some things. I don't think there was any other reason for him to even come out and say anything other than he just felt, hey, I really like the community. It really sucks what you're going through right now. Let me just try to clear something. And even he said it, don't try to throw blame at other people.
The last thing I would just want to touch on before we go into Q&A, unless there are other topics, is basically, guys, like, this is kind of what the big emphasis of episode 3 was, is fine. Like, maybe VGBC, maybe D1, maybe they come straight, maybe they come clean, and they tell us that they're not going to be doing Project M anymore. This is not the worst thing in the world by any stretch of the imagination. By any stretch of the imagination, the player base of this game is still insanely high. The hype levels are still insanely high. There are weeklies, there are tournaments happening all the time. There are a multitude of streams, Smashing Grounds, Tourney Locator, Free Saltines, and so many others happening every week. So what? VGBC pulls 4,000, 5,000 people a week for Project M. If any of the 400 people in chat are people who would tune into VGBC but not these other streams, well, this is my plea to you. Like, if you love the community, if you want to support Project M, if you want to make it survive, tune in to Tourney Locator on Thursdays. Tune in to Smashing Grounds on Thursdays. Multi-Twitch that shit.
The locator.
Well,
Well, y'all can watch Smashing Grounds on YouTube.
So speaking of all the different tournaments you guys have brought up, so really quick before we go to Q&A, let's pick up the upcoming stuff. So guys, I know a few of you were in my chat last night and you were asking about Nebulous. Nebulous has been pushed back. They're finishing up renovations. They're making sure that the place is great and hospitable for everyone that's going to be there, because we do expect some larger crowds now that the venue is a lot bigger and everything's kind of been revamped. I will be there the first day it goes off. If you don't know where it is, it's in Chinatown. I'll be commentating PM stuff. Frozen helps TO. Gambit helps TO. Guru. Gallo is there. Big names, quick, Frozen. Big names. Dark Blues is there. DJ Nintendo is there. Who else?
we have Jaden Vans, and then the Smash 4 scene as well. It also shows up. We have players like John Numbers, Mike Kirby, Ninja. Yes.
Like that's definitely a place you want to go. That's twitch.tv free saltines. I'm posting that for you guys right now. If you don't know when it's starting back up, because there isn't really a date yet, just follow me on Twitter. I will post it out, obviously, because I'll be there and I'll be doing commentary. We also have...
We have so many regionals, and we have so many regionals coming up in the next month. So guys, like, don't act like there are no nationals or regionals happening. There are. So first of all, I'll plug mine because it happens first. February 15th, which is in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Sunday. 2 weeks Sunday. I'm putting the link in the chat, and it's basically GU. It's the Game Underground. Sorry, guys. It's the Game Underground Video Game and Music Fest 2, and it's going to feature Project M with a $100 pool bonus. It's only pre-reg, so please come, but it's all age event. But for people who are over 21, there is free alcohol. There are free alcohol vodka samples. There's Mega Ran performing, tons of musicians. There's Melee, there's PM, there's Mad Smash going on. It's all Sunday, so come out. If you're from New York, like set up a carpool, come up. If you're from MDVA, set up a carpool. We'll find you housing. Just post in the Smashing Grounds Facebook group or reach out to me on Reddit or anything, and we'll make it all work out. We want this to be a huge blowout. So that's February 15th.
I love booze and Smash.
Yeah.
And then obviously the 28th.
Yeah, we got shots
That's
fired.
fired.
That's gonna be probably the like a very hype event. Like I
People
can't.
need to talk about shots fired
I
more.
don't understand why it's not talked about more. So
It
who
is
wants
a
to,
national, guys. It is
Who-
a national.
who wants to
Isn't
talk
there
about
a-
shots fired?
There's like $1,000 bonus for
Yeah.
PM, right?
Yeah.
$1,000 pot bonus, bar, in a hotel, giant venue, and MDVA versus New York, New Jersey crew battle.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
You have Mewtwo
I think
King.
next week we should do an examination of everyone that we know that's going, because there are
Right.
some big names.
I know Mewtwo King is going.
YouTube King's going,
I know
Rolex, Emu Killer, I would assume most of the New York, New Jersey people. Oracle? Are you?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going, dude.
that's okay, I guess.
Alright,
So
right, dude.
Poob and Sora are coming, I
So
think.
really quick, Oracle mentioned this when we were off stream. Is you mentioned you once drove 5 hours to a four-man
yeah,
tournament?
no. Oh, God. I lived through the garbage days. I played 2.1. 2.1 Project M was when I decided, okay, don't like Melee as much anymore. I'm going to get good at this game. So it was in the dark days. I had to travel. I've driven, consistently, like every couple of weeks, I'd drive to Tyler, which is 2 hours away, for a tournament that would almost entirely be populated by people in my own carpool. It'd be like 8 people. But the worst was I drove to Arkansas from Texas. It was a 5-hour drive for a Project M side event with 4 people, and 3 of the people were in my carpool.
So
Oh no.
guys, if he's traveling like that for tournaments that weren't even real tournaments, you guys can make it the shots fired. And trust me, it's not just to go there and like it don't feel like, oh man, that pop bone. Go to have a good time. Go to meet people. Go to get to play with some of these top players. That's how you're gonna get better.
That pop bonus means you're going to have the best players to take on as your sensei
Yeah.
and teach you something.
And Aftershock.
Oh, Aftershock. Okay, let me post that in the chat.
I don't know if I don't know if I've modded, but let me.
I'll post
Should I
shots
not?
fired.
Yeah. Oracle TX, dude, mod me.
Sorry, brother, man.
So the 15th is the Game Underground event, and that's in Boston. The 21st is shots fired.
28.
28th.
28th.
28th to the 1st. Yeah.
28th to the 1st. 28th, February 28th is shots fired, and that's in
Excellent.
where exactly?
Easton, Pennsylvania.
It's in
Right.
Pennsylvania, which is actually
Pennsylvania.
super great for anybody who needs to fly. Because if you don't know, at least from Dallas, it is. They fly into the Pennsylvania airport, and the flights are usually super cheap. Like the last time I checked, flights for shots fired from Dallas were like $90 round trip on Spirit.
So cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not modded, so I'm trying
That's
to
cool.
post it.
I'll repost it for you.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's
but
for
anyways,
Aftershock, right?
Yeah.
Want to give some more information on Aftershock?
Yeah, so Aftershock is going to be the culmination to this big circuit we've been running across the Southwest, right? So we've had it so that every tournament that happens in Texas, in Louisiana, and Oklahoma, because those are the 3 main states, every tournament that happens for Melee, Smash 4, and PM gets added to this ranking. And at the end of the ranking, right before the tournament, the top 8 placers in each game are going to be, they're going to have free entry, free venue, and they're going to automatically qualify for the top 16 brackets, very similar to how Apex works. So you get a free qualification for being top 8. We've got big names in all the games. But then there's also the open tournament, so anybody can enter that, and it'll be a big open bracket. You can go, and the top 8 of that bracket will move on to the top 16. And it's going to be sick. It's basically just a big national. Right now we have, I guess this is the first time I'm going to announce this publicly, but we have the guaranteed $1,000 pot for each game. So regardless of the number of entrants,
Ooh.
you're playing for a $1,000 pot, right? But then if there's
Goddamn.
more than 100 for each game, there's $500 bonus. So it'll be the pot plus the $500 bonus, So that's for each game. minimum. There could be more bonuses on the way. Not going to announce anything else yet, but stay tuned. Get on the Facebook thread and the Smashboards thread if you want some more news, and stay tuned, etc. Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, we got all 3 games, specifically PM, because this is the PM podcast. We're gonna have Lunchables, Sethlon, Denti, Dakpo, all the big hitters you see on Turning Locator. Plus, so far we've actually seen interest from Leffen.
Ooh.
We've seen interest from, I think Ally's gonna come. There was a couple of, I think Mewtwo King might come. I'm not sure. But we've got interest from all across the country, and it's 2 months. It's 2 months away. We got plenty of time to prepare. So,
So those are your dates, guys.
If-
February 15th, February 28th, and
March 28th and 29th.
March 28th.
So if you guys are really forgetful, just follow us on Twitter. Like,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
post this stuff all the time. If you guys would have followed us on Twitter, you would have known about the podcast 3 weeks ago. But Junebug coming in really strong on Reddit today.
Those 500 upvotes.
God bless. All right, so this is the portion where we open up to Q&A.
Oh,
Wait.
actually, I'd like
whoa,
to
whoa,
talk
whoa.
about.
Well, get the questions going, guys. You guys get the questions going, and Junebug's gonna talk.
Yeah. There was one
there-
more important thing that kind of happened, and that was the Ultra David tweet. Ultra David, if you guys don't know, is a very prominent figure in the FGC, and he kind of tweeted about PM, and he expressed that it is infringement. Whether the community wants to acknowledge it or not, we are technically infringing on Nintendo's intellectual properties. That being said, Nintendo still hasn't done anything about it.
Mhm.
So, like Oracle said, we should just keep playing. We're
We wait for official word from Nintendo before we do anything. No use raising pitchforks or making a big fuss or going after D1 because it's terrifying. It's scary. We're technically in the wrong, and Nintendo could shut us down. And from a legal standpoint, there isn't a whole lot we could do to argue it. But they've let us live this long. This is a long.
They would have already done it, basically. Unless we
Yeah.
push the point. Unless we get them real mad.
Yeah. So, no harassing Nintendo guys. We're just gonna wait. There's no reason not to. There's no reason not to play right now. Just play PM. We've got PM scheduled at big tournaments coming up. Shots fired. The Nebulous. We got Aftershock. Lots of big tournaments. PM is not dead. There's no reason to stop playing it. And that's all I want to say. I just want to tell people, stop worrying. There's nothing to worry about right now.
We lost Junebug.
Yeah, it seems
You
like
just-
rip
You
Junebug.
just see a creeper.
the creeper picture. It's adorable. Has the happy face.
I'm saving one question that's definitely toward him in a sec. Okay, so first question, and the reason it's the first question is because it actually got PM to me on Twitch in my inbox. So someone actually took the time to do that. So the first question is, let's see. Do you think PM should support more offensive play? Like, do things like nerfing crouch canceling, and are L cancels even needed in PM? And what he meant by that was oh god, Oracle's already mad. What he already meant by that was, since it's not strategic skill and would make it harder for newer players, do you think they should just get rid of it to accessible to newer players and make it a more fast-paced and aggressive game?
Or L canceling, because those are two different things.
So the first thing was basically crouch canceling. Should it be nerfed because it allows for more aggressive play?
No. Crouch cancel should never be nerfed. There's a ton of reliable. The big thing is, if you're crouch canceling, you are holding down. Which means you have cut every possible movement option you have. You can no longer move.
And your DI will likely be terrible considering.
Yeah, no. And then if you're trying to crouch cancel and you're wrong and you get hit, you're done. Diddy Kong 4. And the other thing is that there's a ton of really good counterplay for it. Almost every character in PM, I'd say at this point, every character in PM is balanced with crouch canceling in mind. The characters, Lucas had a huge problem with it, and that's the reason why he has his the multi-hit downer that's similar to the Brawl one is because it breaks crouch cancel. So that's the counterplay to it. If someone's spamming crouch cancel and you're Lucas, use your down air. Then they're done because you can't crouch cancel meteors.
Yeah. There's
Uh,
some moves that are more effective on people because they're crouch canceling. You
yeah,
can string together your stronger moves into each other that ordinarily wouldn't combo somebody because it'd send them too far.
yeah.
There's a lot of things to exploit about crouch canceling. It adds a lot of depth, and it makes certain characters viable that would never be viable, like
Oh
Link.
yeah.
Link
Yeah,
would have
you're
such a hard time if he couldn't crouch cancel.
I'd say
Um,
Roy is
so-
also another one because of his
Oh
incredible
yeah,
down tilt.
definitely.
Another quick question that I can get. There's a couple quick questions that I want to get out the way. That way we can get to some deeper questions, not eat up too much clock. Oracle, why are you so sexy?
That's from
Yeah,
Billy,
don't eat up
and
the
I know
clock.
Billy's watching the stream. Billy is upstairs in this house right now, and I asked him an hour ago to please make me some coffee because I'm very thirsty, and he hasn't done that. So negative unshout-outs to Billy for doing that.
Fucked up, Billy.
Let's see. Hey, I helped start, and I'm running a Smash group at Lehigh University. I want to start streaming. What kind of computer software do I need? OBS is really good. Chatty, if you have one monitor, will make you keep a chat window open like I have right now, so you can see what's going on even as you're streaming. It to pop up, it stays on top. And you also want to make sure you have other programs like SpeedFan and things like that to make sure your computer's not going to explode from overheating. Let's see. I heard that gaming generation supplied the extra setups, not Nintendo. Is this true?
I'm pretty sure Gaming Generation just provided the monitors. So every Smash 4 setup was on a monitor, which was super cool, but all the monitors said Gaming Generations. I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on that.
Gaming
But I did
Generations are
hear the
good.
Nintendo, just heard of mouth, that word of mouth, that Nintendo provided the Wii U's and Gaming Generations provided the monitors.
Gaming Generation also sent out a tweet that basically said, "Thank you, Nintendo of America. The systems have arrived," and they had a picture of all the Wii U's and the controllers and the hubs and all that. So, my feeling is that Gaming Generation was the in between. That's my guess.
This question is toward
Okay.
Frozen. Is there any idea when the next patch will be coming out?
I can't give any info on that. Sorry.
Now it's
Alright,
coming
so-
out now. everybody
Yeah.
on the left side.
Classic Project MF Team
Saw
response.
that
Surprise,
coming out.
bitch! It's already out.
It's out, but you only have 10 minutes to download it. Quick, go get it. Everybody go get it.
Just to like 6 magazines first and fill out 4 surveys.
I like that question by Skid 2.
See, this is the problem I have when I stream. It's the hardest thing in the world to read off usernames. It's not just me. My followers make fun of me all the time. That's the hardest thing to do on the run. But go ahead, ask. What's the question?
He said, "What do you guys think about some top players disliking 3.5 because it feels too similar, too melee-like, and not like its own thing?"
That sounds like a Mewtwo King comment.
Here's the thing. I heard that so many times at Apex. It's almost like one person said it and everybody else just started like saying the same thing.
Becoming sheep. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the physics engine is from Melee. Like, crouch canceling, the movement, it's all from Melee. They just have some brawl tech in there with the B reverse and the RAR and glide tossing and all that. So to say the game's becoming Melee, it was already pretty similar to Melee. And now that recoveries are nerfed, you're going to see those Melee characters be a lot stronger because they were good at edge guarding.
Mm-hmm.
So now people have to learn those Melee matchups, and they can't get away with, oh, I have an invincible up B. Oh, I have 2 assists on the screen at all times. No, you have to learn the matchup.
I think there's a really healthy balance right now, where the game is between allowing creative options and also not letting characters run away with them. But Eli was mentioning something really interesting to us in our Salt Mines chat group on Facebook, and that was that if Amza had shown off what he had in Project M, that character would have been at risk of being, or he stipulated that character would have been at risk of being changed in 4.0, like presuming that Amza never existed in Melee, right? That he like showed up in 3.5 and did all that light shielding craziness and showed us the set he did against Mango. That a lot of the mechanics to Yoshi would get changed in the next patch because it would be seen as kind of gimmicky or broken or unintended. And I mean, I don't know if I totally agree, but I think it's worth bringing up that there is a caution about the design of PM that needs to be taken by the developers as people get creative with stuff.
Um, let's see. Someone was asking if there's any tournaments in the Midwest that they can look forward to.
Okay, if you live in the Midwest, they have obviously wow, what do they call it? The Wednesday tournaments they do on Windy City Smash. I don't remember what they are, but they do Melee PM weeklies every Wednesday, and they also have a good sized monthly called EXP in Chicago. There's some smaller stuff. I know they still play. They play in Michigan. They play a little bit in like Kansas, around where Strong Bad used to live. But they have
Wave
like
Dash
tournaments there.
Wednesday.
Wave Dash
Right.
Wednesday. That's what it is.
Thank you,
That's in
Chad.
Chicago, I believe.
Yeah, that's Midwest, right? That's
Yeah.
it is in Chicago.
Mhm.
That
Windy
is
City.
technically Midwest is like huge though. So
For this is for Junebug. How was Diddy this patch?
Diddy's still really good.
Yeah, I
Like-
still think I've seen Cypher play with Diddy. He's really good with Diddy, and I think he's still a really good.
It's almost hard to make Diddy bad in any of the Smash
yeah,
games he's
that's
been
what
in.
I've been talking about. Like Diddy just has overall good design. You know, like he has good moves and he's fast. So it's like you would have to try to make Diddy Kong bad. Like he was amazing in Brawl, amazing in all the versions of Project M, and he's amazing in Smash 4. And I suggest like if you keep not suggest, but like I would say that if you kept Diddy Kong's kit, like it'd be almost impossible to make him a bad character.
And I feel like a lot of that is because Diddy Kong's physics kind of lend himself to a melee-like engine. He's a fast baller. He has a good
Yeah.
dash stance. He has quick normals, which are reminiscent of other melee top tiers.
Definitely.
So,
So a lot of people keep bringing up melee character oriented questions, and basically how they feel about them in 3.5. We've discussed this a couple times in previous episodes, where we don't feel like melee characters are broken. We don't feel like melee characters got buffed. We don't feel like melee characters are these crazy things. They have a crazy amount of metagame behind them. We feel like, in fact, we should be thanking and very grateful to the dev team for making them so melee-like. Like, you can pick up the game if you play melee, transition into PM, pick up a character that maybe you play there, if it's Fox or Falco or Sheik or Marth, and you won't have a hard time transitioning into the game as much as you would if you were just out of nowhere picking up someone that, got an added, set of moves or something that you just never had before. I think it has a lot more to do with just the countless and countless hours that they had put into them, and it transitions over more than, oh my god, this character's broken, this character's too good, this character's this character's that.
Raise your hand if you think Fox is a hair too strong, though. Just me.
I think he's
Just
too
fixing my hair,
hairs.
just fixing my hair.
The thing is, in this game, while Fox doesn't have his invincible shine, I'm not gonna. Okay, PM is a bit easier to play. The tech skill is a bit easier to master than melee. So Fox, you can play a
More
lot.
consistently.
Yeah, really well, and that becomes a problem because Fox is so good. So I feel like the engine gives assistance to Fox in this game.
Yeah, I mean, Fox is obviously still like extremely strong. It's kind of ridiculous, but he's still pretty beatable. Like,
Yeah, he
here's
has
my
glass
advice.
cannon syndrome.
If you A, don't know what character to play, and B, are having trouble with Fox, pick Rob. Rob has a 0 to 100 chain grab
Oh my
on
god!
space animals. Back
Oh,
throw.
boy.
He's
Why?
he's Jigglypuff with a slightly worse recovery. Like, you have such good gimping tools versus Fox, and Fox can do plenty of stuff. Like, but he can't like up throw up air. It's tough for Fox. I think technically he still wins, but like Rob has some good stuff, and there's other PM characters with stuff like that too.
Ike.
Like, oh yeah, I can chain grab space animals, and on FD you can get guaranteed up throw to forward smash.
Oh
You
my
can do
god!
some nuts things. Charizard, if you're good enough at the combos, if you can get him with an up smash, that's like 70% or death, depending on if you do it right. Game & Watch has 0 to death chain grabs, like better chain grabs than any other character in Smash has on Fox. It's ridiculous.
So another really good question, this is actually for one of my favorite followers, is when it comes to the PM community, do you agree that the PM community, to a degree, is poisoning itself from the inside without really realizing it. Yeah,
Yep.
there's so much. I've said it 1,000 times before, and I love quoting my buddy Knox, and he said it before. The PM community is like the most self-hating community he's ever seen in his life. Like, this is actually how we kind of opened up the topic last week, which is basically like, why is every post on Reddit like, oh my God, the PM community, help, like, what are you complaining about? And one of the, like, last night I had a pretty nice chat when I was streaming, and one of the things I brought up was we need to stop reacting and start acting. We shouldn't have to wait for a shoe to drop before we're like, we should get out of the way of that. We should just say, you know what, let's start building up our own tournaments. We start to, we talked about making a central hub for information through websites and social media, all these different things. That there's so many talented people part of this community, and I know that for a fact because when I asked the community of things they did that weren't related to Smash, everyone had these fantastic answers to it on Reddit. Well, let's put that to use. How can we improve the game with those talents? How can we improve the scene and the community with those talents? Rather, like, I'm not great at the game. Ask Frozen, he wallops me. I'm not that great. But at the end of the day, I really like the community, so I got together Frozen and Gallo and Dark Blues and other people, and then all of a sudden NZA hits me up and is like, hey, I want to be a part of this. And he's like, I can get Junebug, and Junebug's like, hey, I'm brown too, I'll be here. And then next thing you know, Oracle doesn't know me from a hole in the wall. I hit him up on Twitter, hey Oracle, what's up? Would you like to be a part of this? And he's like, yeah, I'll do it. He flew in yesterday and he was pissed at the weather. So like you have to be very active rather than reactive, because at that point you might be too late. You might have got hit a little too hard.
We have one regional and two nationals we just basically brought attention to in this podcast in the last like 10 minutes. And yet on the /SSBPM Reddit page, the one thread with 373 upvotes says, discussion, who all would be interested in a PM only major /national? Now, here's my PSA to people. Unless you have already started some groundwork on a tournament, unless you have already some funds to announce or a venue to announce or a location to announce, don't make a thread about a hypothetical national that you want to see happen, because we all want to see a national happen. And all you're doing is kind of obfuscating the discussion from like real regionals and nationals that are being planned. I have no problem.
I want a national to happen, so I'm going to host them.
Right. Like
that's the best approach, right?
Yeah,
it's
like,
okay.
that's
It's okay if you don't have it all planned out, right? But at least have something to bring to the table before you start making a thread about it on Reddit. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Everyone needs help. Everyone needs to know that there's support. But if you're gonna make a thread like that, like, start out by saying, "Hey guys, I have somebody who's willing to host a convention center national in this location. Who would be interested in coming out to something like that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, people are asking in chat, like, I started hosting a tournament at my house. We get about 10 entrants. Any advice on making the tournament better and attract more people? We covered this last week too. Even if you have 10 people, and then all of a sudden you find out there's a town like 20, 30 miles away from you that has 10 people, and all of a sudden you start getting crossover entrants, and people that are like, I go to this tournament and I go to that tournament. They start merging into one. Next thing you know, those weeklies get bigger. You can start doing monthlies, bi-weeklies, regionals, things like that, because you're combining the groups. That's all it really is. When Nebulous is down right now, Next Level Gaming, which is in Brooklyn on 40th and like 8th, they do Smash 4. So the first thing Nebulous did wasn't like, don't go anywhere else. They were like, hey, by the way, we don't know any PM stuff right now, but if you want to do some Smash 4 stuff, go over here. That's what you have to do. You kind of have to pick up the other person and say, hey, go here if we're not doing anything, but don't worry, we'll be back. And you kind of just keep it going. And people will they'll eventually dip their feet in both pools and kind of see, test the waters and go, you know what, I want to go to both these events now. I'm going to go here this week, there next week, or maybe they'll go here one day and there the next. So,
and as I've already said, if you want to support the PM community, show up for the streams. Show up just like you did for VG Bootcamp. Show up for Tourney Locator and Smashing Grounds and all of them, and watch the content and talk about the players and talk about the tournaments. Don't talk about like the turmoil that's not happening. Instead, talk about the positive things that are happening that get unmentioned, and basically incentivize people to not try and to not help out and to not build the community.
just turn up like you turned out tonight.
Yeah,
mean,
just turn up just like you turned up tonight.
Shout outs again to everybody who turned out to watch
Yeah,
this.
thank you guys for tuning in.
We peaked at over 420 people, which is just phenomenal.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
420.
420.
Yeah, great
Yeah,
number.
I thought you guys would like that. So people have mentioned that, someone in New York City area that can't make it out to on Sundays. Me and Frozen have talked about getting a venue for a bi-weekly on Saturdays. So we're gonna try. It's still very rocky in the works kind of stuff, but obviously if that happens, we'll hit everyone up on Twitter and let you guys know. Here's a good question. What's your guys' stance about stages that people could find janky, like Norfair and Skyworld or Lilac Cruise? I've seen people complain. Some people find these stages, say these stages should be played unless. I mean, I saw DJ Nintendo counterpick Gallo on Norfair and then get completely housed on Norfair. So until it becomes to the point where like that counterpick is the super counterpick, I don't know. I
think
don't see
Norfair is
with
one of the best stages in the entire fucking game, and I'll tell you why I think that. I think it's an amazing stage because it's one of the few stages that changes its pace as the match is going on and cerebrally makes you think about positions. It really reminds me of like a very experimental StarCraft 2 stage with goal bases. Like basically like it exists unlike any other stage. It really challenges you to be smart about positioning and to adapt to the way the stage is changing.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I had Delfino legal in all my tournaments forever.
I've heard legend.
No. Port Town is great. I tried never again. Well, okay.
Rainbow Cruise?
Rainbow Cruise? No, not Rainbow Cruise. You can run away on that one. You can't run away on the other ones.
I've heard it's legendary for your stage lists.
Yeah, the first low-tier city had Delfino Plaza legal and almost had Halberd legal. So close, but nobody wanted it. Yeah,
well,
there were 18 stages. Like people talk about stages now. It's like I pioneered the stages. I'm still sort of the opinion that like, the David Serlin sort of thing. If it's not broken, there's no reason to remove it. These stages add depth, and we should definitely foster that. But it literally just got to the point from like a TO perspective where there's just too many stages. It's hard as hell to make the tournament run fast. It's like, oh shit, we've got 20 stages and like 6 bands. It's gonna take so.
You guys ever seen the video of Trudat taking 5 minutes at Xanadu to pick a counter?
Yeah.
it was like one of the worst things I had to sit there like,
Okay.
Oh my god.
So if you guys host tournaments, I actually have this rule that I really recommend other people do. It's something they do in poker to prevent people from essentially timing out because there's no timer in that game.
Timeouts in poker.
Well, like people will be deliberating on a play forever, even though normally you should be able to make your decision within like a couple minutes. So they have this thing called a clock, and at any point at a poker tournament, you just call for a clock if somebody's stalling you, if they're just taking way too long, they're slow rolling, and then a judge will come by and just have a minute clock and say you have 1 minute to make your play, or you're gonna fold your hand. And so you can do that for stages. If people are taking too long, I had it at low tier city. Nobody really used it because it was never an issue. But if you call for a clock, I'll give them a minute to choose their stage or to choose their character.
We've really liked having a rotating map pool at Smashing Grounds. Every 2 months, we've rotated out 2 maps and replaced them with 2 more maps, and it's really allowed us to test a lot of different maps. And it's part of the reason. I think we were one of the first regions to start exploring 3.02 Norfair, which was also really cool and was perfectly fine in my book. But I love a rotating map pool. I think people should really, you take advantage of all the beautiful maps that the PMDT has provided, and there's no reason why we need to have a fixed 10 maps necessarily.
So the next 2 questions are linked with Junebug and Frozen. So basically, speaking of what Junebug was talking about regarding an easier tech skill in PM, does the PMDT feel that some of this should be made harder and more like Melee? Without giving out too information, has that talk ever happened with you guys?
I'm sure it's been brought up at some point, but I can't speak on behalf of the PMDT for what my opinion is on this, but I feel like the game doesn't necessarily have to be arbitrarily harder just to match Melee. Like, the entry barrier is already enough as it is, I believe. That's my opinion on it.
Okay, hold on.
And Melee's
We
entry
need to take a
barrier.
break. 1 second, I just want to point out Billy did make me coffee after I messaged him in the Twitch chat.
Shout outs to Billy.
He just did it for the press.
You're a champ.
Guys, this is beautiful. All right,
He
Billy,
just
you want to come
You're
on
the real
stream?
MVP.
What a
Thank you,
gentleman.
Billy.
Oh,
Oh, you didn't make me coffee? People make me
And
coffee.
and Junebug, there are
Yeah,
people
podcast.
just
What's up,
begging.
guys?
There are people just begging you to talk about Ganondorf. Just talk about him. Like, how do
Oh,
you
man.
like him in 3.5? What
I-
changes really made you like say, oh, that's my dude?
Yeah, Poob specifically asked in chat what you thought of the Mewtwo matchup for him.
Oh, that's
As well.
interesting.
Okay, so Ganondorf, I love the character. I love playing him in Melee, even though he's kind of eh. It's just the idea that you get rewarded off those, like, you can win off 4 hits. Like 4 hits, the match, the stock is done. That's it. And he's all about spacing, just controlling space. He's a really slow character, but you maximize your wavelengths, you maximize your use of float in 3.5, and then you still have some pretty good movement options. I still think he struggles with the top tiers that kind of outspeed him, the Foxes, the Diddy Kongs, the Falco. But if he gets in on any of those characters, that could be a stock. Ganon can combo the mess out of those characters in this game. His side B tech chases, his dash attack. His dash attack's kind of like a Sheik dash attack on fast followers. You can dash attack somebody and just dash attack them again. It sends
The
them
wind-
behind you.
It's like the Windmill of Fury from
The
Smash.
Windmill of Fury. Yeah. But yeah,
For those who haven't seen that video, you should really check it out. It's hilarious.
in this game, he's all about kind of controlling space with your aerials, and I try to do that a lot. Versus Mewtwo specifically, I think he wins that matchup because he kills Mewtwo early, since Mewtwo's a floaty character.
Nice.
He outranges Mewtwo, and he can actually edgeguard Mewtwo. The float gives him a good mix-up on where Mewtwo's going to teleport. You can kind of bait it out, and yeah, I haven't managed to reflect too many Shadow Balls with the cape. I think the cape's pretty useless.
Probably
in it.
risky considering if you miss, you get hit by a 25% projection.
Yeah.
Kills you at 80. But another thing that also makes me struggle in the Ganondorf matchup, as from Mewtwo's perspective, is that his aerials are, if spaced correctly, they're surprisingly safe on shields. I'm pretty sure Ganondorf's fair is +2, and Mewtwo's out of shield options aren't known for being that great, except for like resetting back to neutral with teleport. Like, you're not going to get really punished for hitting shields too much. So that could be like infuriating a little.
Yeah, space forward air, space nair, so good against Mewtwo, and I think my down tilt will defeat yours. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen that happen to Emu a few times, and Smash God a bunch more times. Smash God actually gave up going Mewtwo against me because he
Yeah.
knows that matchup's impossible. So,
Possible.
Will you
well,
guys,
he just doesn't want to do it. He'd rather go Fox.
Will you
Yeah.
guys please discuss Kirby? I'd like to get some opinions from higher level players. Well, you got the wrong place from me. Do you guys want to talk about Kirby?
Kirby, I hate Kirby. Now Kirby's still a really, really good character. He didn't get nerfed a whole bunch in the patch. Obviously, you can't really plank the ledge in the same way without being able to move during inhale, and with the invincibility changes. But he's still, like, his swallow sides are still amazing and almost risk free to throw out. And he's got good moves. It's like Melee is the only Smash game where Kirby is bad, because his attacks are just good. You know, he's got that up tilt. He's got the tilts that are great spacing tools. F smash, great aerials. He's got all those jumps, and now he finally has a good recovery. You know, he's a solid character, high tier, upper mid tier, something like that.
I'd put him in mid, upper mid.
Yeah. He's also got a lot of crazy shenanigans with down B. It's really, really hard to punish Kirby landing because he can down B and then cancel the down B and fade back while he's canceling it. So very difficult to punish.
Yeah, I see a lot of players that don't fade back. A lot of players that just kind of stand there. So just keep that in mind. You have movement options out of that.
Play Tetraflora.
Yeah,
I was
on-
about to say Tetra.
Gonna
Yeah.
say Tetra, yeah.
I was like beating his nest consistently with Zelda, and then he went Kirby, and he just destroyed me. That
Yeah,
matchup.
she's really good. She's
Awful.
really good.
Yeah.
I want to give a thank you to NZA providing the Smashing Grounds footage that was playing in the background earlier. And a thanks to Gallo and Eli and the Free Saltines crew for the combo video that's playing right now called Past Assault. You know, we try to find good footage to put back here. Sometimes, like this week was a little bit slower, but I appreciate you linking that stuff because that That was some crazy Lucario stuff. A little bit earlier. Now it's just crazy other stuff.
Yeah, good for
Um,
Risky, man. He won his first Smashing Grounds ever. He's always been one of the best at Smashing Grounds. I mean, always been a contender for that grand finals, and it was a running joke that that he would always get second place, and he finally clutched it out. So
does anyone have advice about Meta Knight in 3.5? That was actually asked even before we started streaming, and it's been brought up again that there's not really a Meta Knight main or someone that they can feel like they're just kind of scarce since 3.5.
Yeah.
Right.
Any
Meta
advice
Knight's-
for someone picking him
Meta
up?
Knight's tough to use. I really, really like the way he's designed because he's designed sort of like basically how all the other melee characters were, where they gave him
Yeah.
good moves, but there wasn't a plan in mind with Meta Knight. It was just like, here's a good up air, here's how to make his neutral air good. He's got good grabs and throws. He's not designed to be any sort of character, which means that to play Meta Knight, you got to be really creative. There's not instructions. There's nobody to copy. There's no efficient flow chart or anything like that for Meta Knight. And so you just got to use his good moves creatively and string them together. Nobody's really done that. It's hard. He's not like super strong like he was before, and it's very tempting to just give up on Meta Knight because he's a fast faller, but he doesn't have all the dumb stuff space animals have, so he kind of suffers a lot to all these huge combos and dying super early. But I think he's got potential. You really just want to focus on his dash dance, his neutral air, and his grab, because his dash dance is
really good
incredible.
things.
and edge guard like crazy with that character because now people
his
can actually be
neutral air
edge
is-
guarded.
Great neutral air for edge guard, up air juggles. Mastering hit confirms into down B is really good because you'll kill a lot earlier than otherwise. I mean, he's just got good stuff that has like specific uses.
Yeah,
Down
he's-
tilt's a great poke, pops him up. F tilt is good sometimes. Down air, I don't know how to use his down air yet. I never really played Brawl, but
It's pretty much like a worse back air at this point. Like in
Yeah.
any situation that
Yeah.
you'd use down air, back air would probably be better.
It leads to grab at low percents.
Yeah,
Downer
so
into
it
grab.
has niche use. Like it really does feel like an old school melee vet
mhm.
in that kind of way.
Yeah.
Like not all are moves. Like he has some moves that are like not really good, but they have like certain uses. Like I'd say like Fox's forward air. Like we didn't know how to use that properly until a couple years in.
Yeah.
He is the most boring character in the game.
How do you feel about Connecticut Smash compared to other states, and how could we improve?
Y'all garbage. Step money match. Yeah.
He's
No, I
he's
mean-
money matching the entire state. He's like everybody.
Everybody
So
in
get in line,
Connecticut.
everybody. Show up to shots fired and line up. We're doing money matches.
Oracle, you want to do teams money matches at shots fired?
I'm teaming with Lunchables, dude.
Oh shit.
He's coming.
Oh,
Uh-oh.
Yo, June, team with Poob. We need to see the Uncle Monkey and the nephew.
I'm actually teaming with Marcus, aka Pig Fresh, at shots fired.
I
Okay.
didn't know he's
So-
still. He told me he didn't really play, but I think that's just for Apex.
He doesn't play 3. Here's the thing, Marcus never really practiced. He was just like one of those kids who showed up to
Oh.
tournaments.
He
And
never had
was
a, he
good
never
at
had a Wii, right? He never had a Wii.
Yeah, never had a Wii, and he just, clicked with 3.0 Lucas. Now Lucas is different, and Marcus hasn't really adjusted to the changes, and now his weakness in certain matchups is kind of getting
Yeah.
exposed.
I actually think Lucas is a contender for a top 10 character. But it's really tough. Every good Lucas main, myself included, has dropped him. And I blame this one change that his down B is like the exact same move, but the timing to make it work out of Waveland, like how to jump cancel and then Waveland, is completely different. So
Yeah.
if I were to play Lucas at the same level, I would have to relearn a lot of stuff that I could do consistently. It's just super annoying. Nobody wants to do that. But he's got great stuff. His down air is still really good. He combos off of his throws. He's still got kill confirms into like his Dacus and up smash, which is harder to land. And he's got like double jump cancel into really good aerials.
So fast.
Yeah, he's fast. He's got good pressure. I think you can still do shine grab. That was something that most Lucases didn't do. I think Neon used it a little bit.
It was such
But
a good option. I don't know why more people didn't do it.
it was
didn't
kind of
have
hard
to.
to implement. But yeah, it's also way more fun to just go nuts on people's shield
That's
until
true. The
they get
magnet
scared.
magnet.
Yeah.
The next question is, how do you guys play so consistently good? I'll do a godlike combo once and then immediately make a mistake, so I'd be off the stage at very low percents. Um, don't well, if you're bringing up the fact that you do something really good and then you fuck up, just don't get hyped. Try to keep your emotions kind of calm and
Yeah, just
keep yourself in the moment.
Relax when you play. Being relaxed when you play, I think, is super important. It's something that I've been working on, not getting like too emotionally attached to the result. And I mean, the big thing. I mean, I've been wanting to like write articles about it because I think a lot about like different types of skills that players have, and there's just like this one weird skill, I guess, that is just like being totally oblivious to tournament nerves and just being super relaxed when you're playing. And it was basically it's like the one skill that Austin has, but he has it in spades, and it's enough to like beat Sethlon and me and other top players without
Yeah.
ever
He's consistent.
practicing or playing. It's just he never chokes
Wow.
in tournament. Like he was just he knew he had a simple game plan and he would always do it, but he would never get nervous, never let the hype get to him, and he would just, do his thing. And that's really what you want to do. You want to just relax, play the best you can. If you don't win, it's whatever. Just, go practice, figure out why. Just don't like try to just relax, I guess. I'm saying relax a lot.
It's the hardest
Um,
thing. Honestly,
what-
it's one of the hardest things in the world if it doesn't come naturally to you. I struggle really hard with nerves, turning nerves, really bad. And I've learned some tricks. I'll take deep breaths. Like when I get a lead, I'll often lose a lead. And so what I do is if I get killed, I'll take a deep breath and take a minute on my pedestal before I jump down. One trick I've learned is if you grab, I read this somewhere and it kind of helps out, is if you grab the left side of your controller really tight, it does something with your brain that like makes you sort of get more involved with what's happening and less
Huh.
connected to
It's the
what's
same
around
thing.
you.
I don't know if any of you guys ever like lift or anything. It's the same concept of like when you're on the bench, if you tighten and pretend you're pulling the bar apart, like tightening, it kind of puts you in focus. So yeah, I can relate to that.
It's a
It's
small
actually
thing.
something Dr. PP talked about in an interview after winning Apex last year. I think it was like clenching your left fist
Yeah.
into like a ball and just clenching it really hard, like gave you it just like scientifically makes you like more confident or something. It's something
Yeah.
nuts like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it was. You might want to just research on that.
I'm
And-
about to go into bars clenching my left fist.
And the last, the last question, because we are almost at an hour and 45. The last question of the night. I'm sorry if we missed a couple of them. Just like I said, hit me up on Twitch, hit me up on Twitter, message one of us. Like get the questions here beforehand, and we could get to them
Or
easier.
follow me at OracleTX, and I will answer your questions.
There you go.
All of our Twitters are down there. If I missed anything, you can ask me on my Twitter and my AskFM. Like,
So
yeah,
the last
same.
question, and it's actually a really great question because I feel like a lot of players go through this, especially when they're in that like mid tier of player skill. It's how do I not autopilot during matches? How do you get yourself out of autopiloting? Well, and I know that feeling where you just feel like, man, I'm not reading anything. I'm just kind of letting it happen, and it's not exactly the good way of letting it happen.
That comes, in my opinion, from training during friendlies. So when you do friendlies, every time you want to play friendly, you always want to be just trying new stuff. And every time you make a decision or do anything in a friendly, you need to think and say, why did I do that? What was the advantage to me doing that? Could I have done something better? And that's really important because it trains you to think about your decisions. A lot of times it's just a video game and you want to play a video game like you play every other video game, which is just pushing buttons and sort of hoping for the best result. But this is an interactive game. So you need to think about why you do things, and thinking about the reasons behind your actions are going to, train you to be just a more cerebral thinking player. And you got to start doing that in friendlies. Anytime you do anything, just think, why did I do that?
That's something me and Smash God love to do a lot. Whenever we're playing a match, we just kind of analyze the things we're doing. Like, oh, what if you did that there? Or, oh, that was a really nice read there. And kind of emphasizing the good and the bad decisions you make during gameplay will help kind of remove that autopilot nonsense some people do. I feel like that happens because there's a lot of lab rats and they practice this combo and then they really want to land this combo so they just force it in, but you can't force
It
anything
doesn't
in
work like
Smash.
that. Right.
You gotta approach well. You gotta play your neutral game. Just
Yeah.
play the game. Yeah.
Autopiloting often happens when you're focused on yourself, but if you force yourself to focus on the opponent and what they're doing, specifically look at what they do in reaction to things you do when they put up their shield. If you jump at them, do they put up their shield? When you start focusing on the decisions your opponent is making and why they're making them, you will naturally play smarter. You will naturally play less autopiloty. So that's what I would suggest.
It's not a good thing to look at your own character when you're moving out. Like, don't focus too hard on, like, maybe you messed up like a simple wave dash or something. Look at what your opponent is doing, like, at all times. And if you do get hit, you have to question yourself how you got hit and how you can avoid that in the next exchange.
All right, so I think that's it for tonight. I want to thank Oracle, man. You were phenomenal. Thank you for coming out, especially on such short notice.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
I'm glad you had a good time. Junebug, thank you for joining us again. Frozen,
No problem.
Frozen, thank you for being I guess staring for an hour and an hour and
Should we
45.
do
Yeah,
plugs?
A contributor.
We're gonna do some plugs. And NZA, thanks for joining us on this week.
Thanks, man.
For people that are tuning in and this is the first time you're seeing me, I stream video games. It's what I do. I play League of Legends. I play Counter-Strike. I have a strong passion for PM. Every single week, we do salt mines together, and every single week, I try to interview people, and I'm trying to set one up with actually Junebug for this week. So, if you like what you see, you got the follow button right there. A ton of you already hit that. Any donations now will be going toward improving the stream. So like I'm trying to get a tabletop mic for the interviews and stuff like that, so it sounds pretty good. But now you guys ate up all the bandwidth for our podcast. So donations will also go toward purchasing more bandwidth for the podcast host and things to help keep things going and flowing. And I really appreciate all the kind things you guys have been saying about me, even though the internet is a very scary and terrible place. You guys have been pretty cool. Don't forget about Nebulous. That is, we don't know when it's up yet, but follow me on Twitter. I will post it up. Me and Frozen go there. Gallo goes there. DJ Nintendo. Vans. There's a plethora of talent at Nebulous. That's twitch.tv/freesaltines, and I also commentate there for the PM stuff. So definitely hit us up on there.
We also have a Nebulous Facebook page, so if you're interested in going to those events, you should definitely join that page, and we have all the information on the event there and future events coming up. So if you haven't already joined that page, you should.
Okay, and now I guess Oracle, want to plug anything?
I'm posting stuff in the chat. I mean, be sure to come out and watch Aftershock or come compete March 28th if you want to. If you're close, it's going to be sick. Got a lot of people coming. Follow me on Twitter at OracleTX. I say funny stuff sometimes and whatever. And then if you want a PM stream, we talked about the stream in Gimr or whatever. If you guys want a consistent PM stream, we stream PM every Thursday on Turn You Lucky. I'm going to post that in the chat. So be sure to follow or sub if you want to support. We've got some high quality PM. And I'll just make a quick last-minute announcement. Low Tier City 3, people have been asking for the date. It's going to be August 1st and 2nd. August 1st and 2nd, we've got a venue. It's going to be sick. It's also in the middle of this, gaming convention. It's going to be super cool. Imagine, an anime convention, but instead of being focused on anime, it's focused on, classic video games. So in addition to Low Tier City, there's also going to be, a Tetris World Championship qualifier or something like that at the event. So it's going to be sick. There's going to be a lot of stuff to come check out. We'll have an event page up for that soon. And I guess that's about it.
Really quick before we go on, if June's plugging anything, if you're also looking for a casual stream to chill in, that's usually mine too when we're not doing interviews and and the salt mines. This is the kind of place you can go and just kind of openly ask your questions and stuff, because obviously I do have contacts with these people, and if I don't know the answer, I'll definitely go out there, reach out, and get the answer for you. And it's for all Smash. You can come in and talk about Melee, talk about Smash 4. We don't really hate on anybody. We're just kind of a chill place to hang out. Junebug, plug in anything?
Yeah, but you could follow my Twitch. I haven't started streaming yet, but hopefully I can do some analysis soon. I feel like that's something the Smash community really needs to do more of. Just, understanding what the top level players are doing and why they're making these decisions. And so twitch.tv/AR Junebug for that. And I regularly tweet out the tournaments I'm going to be attending. Every Monday we have a weekly here in Charlottesville, and I'll be attending that when I'm in school. It's the twitch.tv/living studios. Usually me and Smash God end up there, so that'll be some hype PM and usually Melee because Red and Milkman show up. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Frozen, you plugging your beard?
Shout outs to all the beards on this podcast
Dude,
right
shout
now.
outs to
Yeah,
Beard Boys.
we got
Beard Boys are
beards.
nice right now. Let's go.
Yo, shout
And
outs to
Nizza-
16-year-olds.
jeez, hashtag not even gonna say it, but you know what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Nizza, what are you
Oh.
plugging? Nizza, what are you plugging?
I am going to first of all shout outs to Baka. Baka is the one who makes all of the custom character mods for Smashing Grounds, and he also made the template that you guys are looking at today for the Salt Mines, our new template, and yeah, mad love to Baka for that. And just keep your eye out. Pre-register for the February 15th event happening in Boston. The concert / free drink / Project M with $100 pot bonus. That's February 15th. You can find information for that. I'll be posting it on Reddit, and also you can find it on the Facebook group for Smashing Grounds. And also, just all of you guys, like mad love to you for showing up here and do everything you can to reward good Project M content. That's the way that people get recognition, players get recognition, and regions are able to build the power they need to be able to create their own nationals, to create their own regionals. And so, I'm putting in the link in chat for Game Underground. Twitch.tv/Game Underground is where we host Smashing Grounds.
Repost it. You put them together. Just put a space.
Oh yeah,
after
sure.
follow.
Please show up every Thursday. We come on a little bit earlier than Tourney Locator, and then you just
So
multi
tune
Twitch
into Smashing Grounds for like an hour and then turn it
multi
off.
Twitch it,
Off.
multi Twitch it,
This is
and
No.
watch both.
Upper
All right.
community.
I actually have to go, guys, so I'm going to say goodnight to everybody. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys, and yeah.
All right, thank you
Alright,
guys
be
so much for
sure.
coming through. I can't even tell you how amazing it was to have 400 plus people watching us just yuck around for
Shout
some
outs to
topic.
Reddit.
Shout outs to
Shout
Reddit.
outs.
Yeah.
All right. I'll
Thank you
see
guys.
you guys later.
Everyone have a great night.
Night.
Have a good night.
BGs.
Peace.
Peace.